Hello, my name is Charl du Plessis, and you are listening to The Gareth Nelson Show.
All right, we are chatting to Charl du Plessis here, jazz and classical music legend from South Africa. Charl, how are you doing today?
Hi, Gareth. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
Oh, it's only a pleasure. All right, Charl, tell us a bit how you got started into music.
Well, I come from a totally unmusical family, which I think sometimes serves as a bigger impetus towards music than coming out of, two professional musicians being your parents. So I was always drawn to wanting to make people laugh or perform and entertain people. And we happened to have a piano at home. Mm-hmm. So I grew up with a Steinway piano at home and always plonked away until I started piano lessons at about the age of 9, which is quite late, and had to learn classical piano. And my parents always listened to these classical pieces, and then my father would say, "Okay, Charl, that sounds cool, but now can you please play something nice?" And then, because they wanted to hear the music they liked, like Barbara Streisand or Frank Sinatra or stuff that really made sense for them. So that's when I realized that only playing classical music can only serve an audience on the one side, but you lose a lot of people. So then I carried on with piano, studied music formally, and did a BMAS and a master's and a doctorate degree. And simultaneously, the jazz sort of developed. And that's how I, at the moment, have this dual career where I'm able to cross over from jazz to classics and the other way around.
I mean, do you have a preference necessarily when you play, or do you love both?
Not really. It's like a mother having to choose between her favorite two children. It's always difficult. I so like having a balanced diet of music. In the course of 1 week, I get to play with a symphony orchestra the one night. The next night, I accompany Nathaniel, which I've been doing for 19 years now. And the next night, I'll be playing jazz with my trio. So I like the spice, the variety, the mixed batch that I work with every week.
Absolutely. And of course, it shows your versatility as well.
Yes, and obviously the more you can play, the more money you can make.
Of course. That's important too.
Yes.
And then career highlights for you, things that have stood out in your career?
I think playing in big venues always stick with you for longer. Like I was fortunate enough to play in the Royal Albert Hall in London years ago with Nathaniel, which was a great one. And for me, 2 other ones as a solo performer, I played in Shanghai's Oriental Arts Center, which is a huge performance space that I really enjoyed performing in. And maybe the biggest highlight of all of them, playing in the Philharmonie in Berlin, which is that wonderful hall where the Philharmonic Orchestra, the Berlin Philharmonic, usually plays. I was able to, on that stage, with the jazz legend Chick Corea one evening when he did a concert there. So it's really incredible memories, these big venues. But then again, I must say, sometimes in smaller places, something completely unpredictable and very special sometimes happens, and you're amazed at kind of the intimacy of the venue or the sheer luck of the moment. And that's what's so nice. Every time I go on stage, it's new and it's fresh and it's exciting.
And on the other side of that coin, lowlights, things that you would regret and would do again if you could change.
You know what? The one regret as you get older that I think that you have is sometimes at the beginning of one's career, whether that's doing your job or doing mine, is sometimes you take yourself so seriously at the beginning and you're so nervous and you're so not yourself. Whereas now I'm at the age of, I'm 41 now, so I'm starting to enter the age where I sort of feel much more confident about what I do and how I do it, and I can relax more and be more myself. So there's not one specific thing in my career that I think, oh, that was a disaster, or, luckily I've never had these huge piano disasters, apart from sometimes piano's keys not working very well and coming back up and having to lift it with my fingers. I think it's more an internal thing of, gee, if I could go back 10 years, I would just chill more and have more fun and make people part of the journey.
Absolutely. Well, that's great advice to any young musician as well, isn't it? I mean, just to... I
think so. Working hard is obviously true, and people always say, oh, you've got to practice. And that's true, but you've also got to enjoy and listen to other music and try and communicate with people, because if you don't reach your audience or at least make one person smile during that performance, then you've kind of missed the plot, I think.
Absolutely. It is about entertaining at the end of the day.
Definitely, and sort of making people feel that they're not alone and that they're getting their money's worth, even if they didn't pay for the concert. These days people's time and attention is very precious, and I always feel so thankful when I walk out and I see a hall filled with people because they could have been home watching TV.
Absolutely, well said. And now I wanted to ask you, what do you think of the current sort of state of music in South Africa itself? I mean, in a broad sense of the word.
I think it's incredibly exciting for those people who are willing to work and sort of be an entrepreneur of sorts. Because I think the old recipe of sitting at home waiting for, some famous band or some famous singer to phone you and say, hey, do you want to join my band? That will never happen. I think we're in the age where you have to make things happen for yourself, and where social media and the ability to put yourself on YouTube opened a whole new world of talent out there. So as far as styles and varieties are concerned in South Africa, I think we're in a very exciting space, because people are more open and accepting of the possibilities. But obviously money is sometimes a little bit of a problem. I can generally see in the past couple of months that since the petrol price has gone up, people are holding on to their wallet. Really, I can see that. And that then doesn't become a sort of a downer for me. I try and work with it as a challenge to say, okay, what do we do to still make people come to the concerts? Do we go closer to them, or do we make the tickets cheaper, or do we, because the show has to go on.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's the other thing is, of course, is the lack of sort of state support for music in South Africa as well. I mean, the government doesn't really support,
Of course. And you see, if you come from a background like I do, where in my life I have had very little to no support in terms of state or bursary or funding for somebody giving me lots of money to make my first CD. That never happened to me. I had to pay for everything myself by funding it through hard work or playing at some stupid wedding gig and taking that money and saving it, So I think the idea of turning to government and saying, yes, but you're not giving us money, is obviously a reality, but it doesn't mean that it cannot happen because of government not giving us money. So if you understand what I mean, it's sort of, you have to make money for yourself.
Absolutely. You've got to find a way.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's sort of more exciting. And then once you've done that, you're sort of independent, and you don't have to worry about government giving you money at a later stage.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and owing them, as it were.
That's what I'm thinking.
And then, in terms of, you spoke about technology now. On the other side of technology, though, do you not feel there's an oversaturation of artists coming through because it's so easy now to produce music at home, for example, and put it on the internet and say, well, look at me now? Do you not think that's the downside of technology?
I think it is the downside of technology, and putting somebody on a stage or even in a restaurant in the corner where many people start their career sort of busking or having the opportunity to sing a song, that's a completely different ballgame. Playing in front of people and having a live audience. So somebody can be wonderful on YouTube in the comfort of their own living room, but once you put them on a stage, sometimes they crumble completely. So to me, YouTube and a website and your Facebook and Twitter or Instagram has become what a CD used to be years ago, which is a little bit like a card that you give somebody to say, this is me, this is what I do, and then they put it somewhere so that they can remember you. But seeing you in action on a stage is quite something else. And some world famous artists have the luxury of spending days and even weeks in a studio and sort of cut and splice until they have a new song there. In my job, most of what I do is live in front of the audience. I cannot redo it, and that pressure is good, obviously, because it forces you to be better. But for me, the ultimate test, whether you've been noticed on Idols or on some competition for classical music, is if you play on a stage, then you really have to show your stuff.
Absolutely. You can't hide behind anything else except your talent, of course.
That's the thing, and the response that you get from the audience, that's your ultimate critique. You know,
Absolutely.
like very, very weak applause can sometimes demotivate you, but then you still have 4 songs left, and then you've got to keep going. Stuff
The show's
like that.
got to go
the
on.
reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask you now, the state of, let's put it 2 questions here. The state of, firstly, of classical music in the world today, is it still relevant to the youth? And then even I can put the same question for jazz.
Yes, I think it is definitely relevant, and I think that the jacket it's wearing now is slightly different from the one it wore 50 years ago. And what I mean by that is that young people, I think, turn to classical music for a certain feeling or a certain situation in their day or in their week where they think, oh, this music is fitting. You know, the same way you and I would be able to imagine what music in a spa or when you go for a massage would sound like. The application of that music is fine for that setup. Yes. But I think 50 years ago, people went to classical music concerts because they knew it was sort of the right thing to do and very intellectual and very good. But now it's more a question of going for that feeling of the music and the experience of being transformed or transfixed in a world of completely different sounding stuff. The same reason why I would go to a open air pop or rock concert is being part of that experience. So yes, I think again the live element comes in where people dress up or go out to the concert hall and then really experience this massive symphonic instruments in front of them and seeing everybody in action. That's part of the real experience rather than putting the CD on at home. So I think for many, many years, even for the last 60, 70 years, people have been worried about classical music and worried that the audience is getting older and there aren't going to be any people left listening to classical music in 50 years' time. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, we have to keep educating younger people about the wealth of music and how it's possible to have a balanced musical diet.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely not dying.
And jazz as well. I mean, there's still relevance to
jazz
it, isn't it?
As well. Yeah. I think so. And you know what's very strange in South Africa? There's quite a divide between who listens to jazz and who doesn't. You'll find pockets of a city like Johannesburg where there'll be active jazz happening how many nights a week. And in other parts of Johannesburg, people have never even heard of jazz or been to any jazz concert. So again, for many styles, that's the same thing. But I think it's alive, and the supporters thereof feel very strongly about making it happen and putting money where their mouths are.
And for the future for you now, I mean, what's coming up on the horizon, as it were?
Well, next year I'm very excited to be recording my first solo piano album. I've never ever recorded a CD with just me on it.
Oh, wow.
Because I always thought people would get bored, It's
Certainly
like
not.
looking at the same face all night long. But I'm finally ready for doing that. And with the trio, we keep performing and touring. We do some tours to China and Switzerland next year, which is quite exciting. And before this year runs out, next month I play with the Cape Town Festival Orchestra down in Stellenbosch. I do some Gershwin Rhapsody in Blue and a piece that I wrote myself for orchestra and piano that features some Greek concerto and Lady Gaga all mixed up in one piece. So that's quite exciting.
Indeed. And then how do we find out more about you and buy albums and
my
look at that?
My website, charlduplessis.com. That's CharlDuplessis.com. And all my albums are available on iTunes or on Apple Music, obviously, and on the other platforms as well, Amazon, so people can check out and listen to it over there.
Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you, Charl, for taking the time to chat to me today. And
thank you very much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And we'll definitely follow your career closely and get you on again in the near future.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Keep well.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.